Welcome. I'm Victoria Schneps, the publisher of the Home Reporter, the Brooklyn Spectator, and the Spectator News, and I am thrilled to be bringing to you our new borough president, the very handsome and the very brilliant Eric Adams. Welcome.
I like handsome being first.
You notice that? Well, because you're so impeccably dressed. I mean, I love to dress. To me, it's the fun in the morning of getting up, and I know you're so perfectly coordinated too. I mean, how do you decide which tie? I mean, you have someone help you, or you do this all on your own?
You're so right because the way you dress is how you feel, and it's your calling card. That if you care about how you look, you care about how the people who are around you look as well.
Well, that's a challenge. You know, with my staff, I have some people who come right out of college and they don't quite get that there's a different code to dressing, but I'm such a believer in you dress for success.
So true, so true.
But don't you find that there's some people who don't get that?
Right, and I think that we're in this environment now where any and everything goes, and I think it's uniform of the day. You know, while I'm out just hanging out with some friends watching the Super Bowl, I will have my jeans on or what have you. But if I'm going to be in the environment where I am attempting to let people know that I'm serious about what I'm doing and I want to present them in a professional manner, then I want to look the part as well as be the part.
Well, at what point in your life did that happen? Because I know you first were a policeman in a police uniform. So
Right.
when did you make that transition and when did you get that? Because I'm always shocked when people don't get that, but you got it very early on.
Well, if you look at, you hear people oftentimes talk about the importance of paramilitary or military service. Our fathers and fathers' fathers, many of them participated in some form of military service because our country was at war during that time. One of the pros of going through the military service is that you learn the standard of how you should present yourself. And we've had a long period of no wars that we had to participate in. And so many people never went through the formal dress code, how you should present yourself. Those of us who went through the police department, when I was in the police academy, your shoes had to look a certain way. You had to tie them a certain way. Your shirt had to look a certain way. So I learned from that experience that there's an expectation on how you present yourself.
Tell me about your parents. How did you get to be, I mean, we're all, you know, product of our families, I
So
believe.
true.
Right? So what was it in your home like? What was it that, you know, your parents brought you to make you the man you are today?
Well, I had an amazing, mother and dad. Very loving environment, and my mother was a very strong, quiet but determined woman. You know, when she moved us from a tenement building in Queens and Brooklyn. I talk about the story all the time. How people thought she was unable to do that, but she was so determining to make it happen. And we moved to a nice small house in Queens.
Now, you went to Bayside High
Yes, I
School.
did.
You know,
Yes,
my
I
office
did.
is right there. I have an office in Bay Ridge and an office in Bayside.
Okay,
So
good
I saw
location.
that Bayside High School grad. Well, my
Right.
daughter died to go to Bayside High School because she wanted to be a cheerleader.
Commodores. We had one of the best football teams
That's
going.
right.
That's
And that
right.
was her thing. And she left Townsend Harris High School to go to Bayside High School to become a cheerleader
Yes,
for the
yes,
Commodores.
yes. Great team. Chief Coach Nelson was the coach back
All
then.
right.
We were city champs several
Were you a
times.
football player?
My freshman year, I was a football player. I was on a junior varsity, and then I discovered girls, and it was all downhill for sports.
Well, you know, sometimes it goes the other way because, you know, the girls like the guys in the
Yes.
sweater. I remember my freshman year of college, I fell in love with this guy with a big sweater because he was a jock.
And it did a
he had
little letter.
Right, he had a letter sweater. Oh my God, how I died to wear that. But, you know, Bayside was a very beautiful neighborhood.
It was, and that's when we just started, busing children. I grew up in South Jamaica / St. Albans, and so I had to travel about an hour and a half every day, and that was the first time that we were in a multicultural environment because it was in a community that was predominantly white,
Right.
and so it was a new introduction for all the children. And to sit in a classroom for the first time with a white student and learn from each other, it was a great experience, and it started me to appreciate how important diversity is.
You know, I've often wondered when they bust kids in, did the kids who were on the bus stay together and the kids who were from the neighborhood stay together, or were you able to somehow break through that barrier?
You did. You broke through.
Okay.
You traveled together to school, but by the time you got there, you were in a classroom. I had so many friends I met from the Bayside area,
Right.
and it was a different experience. You know, you traveled back to your communities together, but while you were in school, there was a cross section of exchange of information, of study groups together, and it was a great experience because it forced you to break out of your own little silo. You know, we get so comfortable around our own groups that we don't realize the beauty of breaking out of those groups and learning from the other groups that are part of what makes the city great.
You know, I'm thinking when you're speaking about breaking out, when I grew up on East 21st between Quentin and R in Brooklyn. And when I got married, I was only 20. I had to stay on East 21st Street. So I moved to Church and Caton, but I stayed on East 21st because I had to stay in my little world.
Yes,
And I think when I grew up, our worlds were very tight and very,
they were.
right? I mean, it was like, to go downtown Brooklyn was a big adventure.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, but I think it opened my world too as, you know, I got older, but not growing up. So this was a great experience to have that chance to go into another world, so to speak.
It was, and we should encourage that. I believe that is part of the development of the full person and allowing children to come into their full personhood, of not restricting them based on, you know, what we define as the norm. And I tell children all the time, you know, don't embrace the anti-Christopher Columbus theory. If you leave your block, you're going to fall off the globe. There's so much more to learn, to see. And our children today, I think it's because of the internet and computers. The globe is smaller now. We communicate on a broader level. But computers are great, but nothing is better than human interaction.
Absolutely.
You know, sitting down
Scary,
and
right?
blogging and sending up tweets, that's fine. But to interact with another human being is a great experience that we should not allow
Well, listen, I'm
technology
sure
to do.
that afterwards your man is here, that you'll be tweeting out that we're here together.
Yes, we will.
But I often yell at my staff, I say, why didn't you call him? Call? I mean, they're so busy emailing and
Yeah.
doing the other communication. Well, I mean, I think you've become a great communicator yourself. Did you get involved in government in high school or college?
No, no, my real involvement came in the police department. I saw that it was
Well, what brought you into the police department? Was it an opportunity? I mean, how did you
No,
get
no,
there?
that's an interesting story. It was after Randolph Evans was killed.
Yes.
A group of civil rights leaders, Reverend Herbert Daughtry being one of them, brought together a group of young black men and told us all that they wanted us to go into some form of law enforcement. Some of the young men went into the Department of Correction.
Now, was this in college or was this after college?
I was
'Cause
still
you
in
went
college.
to John Jay,
I
right?
went to John Jay. I went
Right.
to New York City College of Technology on
Right.
J Street in
Right.
Brooklyn.
Right.
I'm Brooklyn through and through.
Right,
you
good.
know.
Well, nothing wrong.
And I later went on to obtain my master's from Marist College. But during the time I was in New York City College of Technology, that's when they encouraged us to go into law enforcement. I was a computer geek.
Oh.
There was no desire to be a law enforcement officer, but they really wanted us to go in and play a role of changing
But what about
police.
your brother? It wasn't your brother in law
My
enforcement?
youngest brother, he was a sergeant in the police department.
Okay.
You know, he's my hero. Everyone loves him. You know, he's just one of those guys. As soon as you see him, you just adore him. Really polite. He just retired a couple of years ago and moved to Virginia.
Because he was in Queens for a while.
Yes, he was.
I knew him, right.
Yes, Bernard.
He was loved.
Yes,
Yeah, he was
yes,
beloved.
yes. Really, a real gentleman. You know, he retired a few years
But they
after
had
I retired.
was he in the police force when they started talking to you, or he wasn't there yet either? About joining
He
the force.
joined 3 years after I joined.
Oh, okay.
And he retired 2 years after I retired and decided to leave the city. You know,
I know,
he's having a
it's-
wonderful life in Virginia. I hope he comes back and return to New York. I would love to have him here.
Of
You know,
course.
you know when you are a baby brother, you're a baby brother for life.
Yes, yes. You know, it's like my son Josh. He's my baby. He may be an adult, but he may be my partner in business, but he's my baby.
Yes.
You can't ever lose that
That's
position in your
right.
life. So when you went into the the police, did you go, you went into corrections first, right?
No, I was always, I went to the New York City Transit
Oh,
Police.
transit.
And
Okay.
then Commissioner Bratton, when he became the commissioner of the New York City Police Department, he was the
Right.
commissioner of the Transit Police. He was the chief of transit at one time. And then when Mayor Giuliani became the mayor, they merged all three departments. They merged
I remember that.
the housing police, the transit police, and the New York City Police Department. And that's when I became a sergeant. I was promoted to sergeant, and I started to move up through the ranks. And I was part of the New York City Police Department at that time.
What did you learn from that experience? Because that's, that wasn't easy.
No,
That
it
was a
wasn't.
tough job.
It was, and it continues to be.
One of your memories of a tough situation. My girlfriend was Trudy LaForgia, who was a two-star chief in the police department.
Okay.
And she shared with me the time that she said, you've got to make instantaneous sometimes responses. And she said she was brought to a scene where a man was under a car and they had to decide if he was going to have a gun as he came out from under the car.
Right.
And she had to make a decision that instant. Was she going to pull her gun or she was going to hold and see if it was a safe situation?
So true, so true. And I think, although many decisions we make are split-second decisions, but what we bring to the action, because the mind moves in, a quick response. And it's important for us to be diversified in our interaction so that what goes into our decision is not based on predispositions.
Okay.
It's not based on what we brought there that would distort the right decision to make. And I think that happens often. And I know sometimes I look back, I made bad decisions or wrong decisions based on my own personal biases, based on my predisposition on what
Do you
a
have an
person
example
was.
of one?
I,
Some memory of something?
I remember one time I was on patrol, and when I was a lieutenant, I used to drive myself. I was on patrol, and there was a young black male. He was in a beautiful car. I think it was either a Lamborghini or one of those fancy cars. And I remember following him a little while, and then I pulled him over. And when I got to the car and asked for his license and registration, and he showed me it was his car, he owned the car. And when I sat back in the car, I said to myself, why did you pull him over, Eric? Did I believe that he should not have had that car? And so here I am as an African-American male. I was a lieutenant at the time. I was successful in my career. But I brought some of my predispositions on patrol with me. And I had to do a self-evaluation to say, if I'm treating people unfairly based on their ethnicity, then are others treating people unfairly? And when they don't know people who are successful in that particular category or particular group. And so you learn that one shouldn't treat a Muslim unfairly if his wife is wearing a hijab, or treat a person who's wearing a yarmulke, or treat a person based on their community. It's about treating people for who they are, and those experiences taught me how to treat people who they are, not who I think they are.
Well, this whole stop and frisk kind of issue, how the sensitivity that you had. I think Bratton is going to keep stop and frisk, but use it more sensitively. What does he think he has to do to help the police do that kind of work, but do it more sensitively?
Right. Well, first of all, stop and frisk is an excellent tool. It's an excellent law enforcement tool. I would not live in a city where a police officer couldn't stop, question, and frisk people who they believe is committing a crime. That is not what happened for the last 12 years. We took this great tool and stated that we were going to go after people based on ethnicity, not based on their actions. And that was a big mistake. And I was really surprised that Police Commissioner Kelly embraced that philosophy, because he was the poster person for community policing under Mayor Dinkins. But we went off track. And I think Commissioner Bratton is going to bring the department back on track. And you do that by allowing the police officers the power of discretion, allowing them to be professionals and do their job and take police actions based on their observations, not based on a quota system of a predetermined number of stops they need to do.
Oh, I think there's the magic word, the quota.
Yes, yes.
That's, I think, really where we're at in terms of, I have a business on a busy street, and you see the people, even the traffic people, they're out there with their because they've got a quota of
Exactly.
how many tickets they're going to have, and they don't care if you're right or wrong, if you beg,
Yeah.
plead, right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's an easy, kind of a comparison, but I think quota is really the
It
magic word.
is. It is because it drives the action for the wrong reason and not the right reason. The right reason is to stop crime. The wrong reason is just to fill the predetermined number of interactions with the public, and that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think your police career also. I thought I heard or read that you're thinking of using the ComStat concept in your office. You want to share a little bit about how you're going to use
Yes.
that?
We're using them.
Accountability,
Yes,
right?
yes, there you are. Well, I'm a firm believer. You have to inspect what you expect.
Ah,
And that's the
okay.
key. And that's what CompStat is about. Commissioner Bratton introduced CompStat with Jack Maple, who was his right-hand man at the time. Jack, unfortunately, is no longer with us. He passed away. But he was the mind behind CompStat of using real time to determine where crimes take place and how do you move the manpower to the areas where you need it. And so that's what I want to do in the office.
Can you give me an example?
A perfect example is it's my belief we have a lot of agencies and organizations, local community-based organizations, that are providing real services to people in need. The unfortunate thing is the people who are in need are not connected with the services that are being provided. So we want to create a mapping system by using the data that Mayor Bloomberg was very successful in doing with open source data. We want to utilize NYU and other colleges to help us get a mapping system and determine where are the services needed and team them up with the service providers. For example,
Oh,
if we look at a certain area in the city where we have double-digit unemployment, and the mapping will show us where the unemployment numbers are high. Let's team up with employee agencies and job recruiters to go into that community and have a full month of proliferation of how to get a job, how to do resume writing, how to be ready for interviews, what jobs are available, so we can really tackle the problem on the ground instead of just looking at it from a distance away.
that's brilliant.
And we want to look at all those areas where we need to do a real analysis of where the problems are and then apply the resources to those problems.
Well, that's an interesting concept too, in terms of how you can bring, for instance, like to neighborhoods like Brownsville and East New York, manufacturing or some kind of way right in the community to have people have opportunities for jobs.
And that's the goal. The goal is, my goal as borough president is I think we've done a great job in investing in structures and buildings. We have a great stadium on Atlantic and Flatbush Avenue. Greenpoint has continued to rise. We're going to do some great things in Coney Island. But we have to start investing in people now. I want to improve the quality of life for Brooklynites, teach them financial literacy, healthy eating habits, how to prepare for college and be prepared for college, and volunteerism. Teaching young people in college to go to high school and tutor high school students and high school students tutor junior high school students, and teaching people how to have this intergenerational relationship with our seniors who are in dire need of assistance on how to navigate the challenges of government. And so the goal is not only invest in buildings and structures, but I want to invest in people and create the atmosphere where we can have a well-diverse borough where people can enjoy the beauty of our diversity.
I love that concept. I mean, this is really where you got a lot of stories I could be writing about because each one would be a terrific story
Yes,
to tell.
yes.
And that's really part of what we love being in community journalism, is to be able to tell the stories, even to be able to do literacy articles on how people write resumes, how people do the things you're talking about. So, our newspapers are there to be able to provide that information for our readers.
And
So we'll work with you.
and the stuff you do is great. Bringing people together, the King of Kings, the Queens of King of Queens,
Right.
and the newspaper and the 40 under 40. All of those things allow us to meet each other. Because what I am noticing is that we have good people in this city. And oftentimes they pass each other. They ride the trains next to each other. They get their cafe latte and
Right.
just go on their business. But if we can start connecting good people, then good people can do good things. And that's the goal of building a universe of good people who want to do good things for people who are in need.
Well, I'm the queen of networking. So I will be delighted to work with you on that because I think it's true. I think, what's been delightful to see is how when we network these people, how they all of a sudden, geez, that was so nice to meet that person. Oh, yeah, we're going to be doing some business
Right.
together. Oh, yes. And I think it's just something as simple as how do you bring these people together?
So true. And I am borrowing, I'm taking a page out of your book. I'm going to use Borough Hall as a place where people can come to meet each other. I'm going
Wonderful.
to continuously have my staff find creative ways of bringing people through our doors that they can meet each other and learn about what they are doing and how we can cross reference each other and utilize our skills together.
It's a beautiful facility.
It
It's,
is.
it's magnificent. I don't know if the other boroughs have anything as beautiful as you
No,
have.
no, no. But the goal, the building, I don't want a pristine building that's detached from the people.
Okay.
I want the building to be an anchor. So as you travel downtown and go to one of the local municipality offices that are there, and you pass by the building, I want the building to inspire you because of relationship you had with either my staff or when you came to our building for services, that it can inspire you that no matter how tough and difficult Brooklyn may be, there's a place in the center of downtown that is your source of energy and it's inviting. We have a borough that 47% of Brooklynites speak a language other than English.
Yes.
So our welcome mat must be in all of those languages, and people need to know that it's a friendly place and not an intimidating place.
We have our Spanish language paper that we now distribute in
Wow.
Sunset Park
Excellent.
because we really recognize that, these are a good group of communities that would want to read something, but in Spanish.
Right, so true.
So you've got to meet that need.
It'll allow the Spanish community, as the mayor said yesterday, as his state of the state, where he's going to allow undocumented and other groups to
Yes.
receive identification card. That's a huge boost for those communities. And so my goal is to figure out how do we allow people no longer to live in the shadows. Bring them out of the shadows. Let them participate in government. Let them participate in the pursuit of the American dream. The federal government will deal with the immigration issues. We have a responsibility to be humanitarians and say, if you live in New York, if you live in Brooklyn, then as your neighbor, we're going to make sure you participate in what the borough has to offer.
Well, I think that's dynamite. I'm so glad we're not sitting back and waiting for the federal government to fight their fights amongst each other and do
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So I thought that was for me, I took away that there were three things that I thought were great. And one of them was that. The other
Yes.
one was the preschool.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel it's so important as a teacher how you get these kids real early.
You
Don't
do.
you see that that's something that, for the future, that
You
we've
do.
got to help the intervention with these kids?
And to his credit, as his children went to public school, and Bill is a real guy. What you see is what you get. Standing outside shoveling snow. That is
Or
not
was
a
he late
photo
for that?
op.
Now he's got a reputation of being late for
Yes,
everything.
yes. But the beauty is let them talk about him being late. But we know he's on time with the policies that are needed
Yeah.
to move this city forward. This city must become more compassionate. And I've learned that compassion is a gift that keeps on giving. When you do something kind to someone, that kind act encourages that person who's a recipient to be kind to someone else. Because, Vicki, people are hurting. And hurt people. And we can stop a lot of this pain that people are experiencing if we just become more benevolent and more kind to people in a very real way. And right now, the country and the borough and the city is looking for leaders who are compassionate leaders, who are willing not only to lead based on numbers, but willing to lead from their heart based on compassion and touch the hearts of other people.
Well, during the days of Willowbrook, when my daughter was at Willowbrook and we were fighting and marching and picketing for the rights of people with disabilities, and the news came out about it, I can't tell you the numbers. We had hundreds of people who wanted to help and to volunteer. So I saw the natural goodness in
Right.
people. It needed to be tapped.
That's so true, so true, and that's the goal. And if we tap that and match that with what we want to do around economics, how we want to continue the development of Industry City and Sunset Park and the Navy
Yes.
Yard to attract businesses into those areas where traditional businesses were not there, to mobilize people to use our roof space for rooftop gardens, to encourage development of manufacturers and bring manufacturing jobs to the borough, to look at how we do zoning, to utilize our air rights to go about building affordable housing and senior housing. Once we tap into the compassion part, and once we teach people that we have to look after our fellow Brooklynites, then all the development will follow. All of the creativity will follow. Our artists will see the possibility of being creative around art and creating art zones. Instead of the BAM art zone, we can do that throughout the entire borough. But it all starts with a compassionate Brooklynite, and I got to lead the way on that.
Well, I think you set the path very well. So I think, you're on the right way. I just am very excited about the future of Brooklyn because I think your leadership is going to give a new vision to us. And I think it's a powerful, powerful thing. I wanted to ask you, is there something particularly, if there was one thing of all that you'd like most to do? If you had a magic wand and you could get it done immediately?
Build a database of volunteers. I
Okay.
think New York Cares is a great model. We need a Brooklyn Cares. If we can really invoke the volunteer spirit and energy, we will see a change in our city overnight, in our borough overnight. You don't need money to teach a person some of the skills that are needed. And we have enough experts and professionals in the borough to now give back. If we can give people to give back 1 or 2 hours a week, we can do some remarkable things. And that's our focus, to really tap into the desire and energy to give
Wow.
back.
I think this has been great. I'm so delighted to have you
Thank
here
you. Thank
as
you.
my wonderful guest, and I am so happy to have you in my life.
Thank you.
So I wish you the greatest of success.
We are mutual fans of each other. I adore you.
Oh, thank you. It's very mutual. And this is Victoria Schnepp saying goodbye, good night. See you again.